Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the PMRL Racing League. We are here for race number 6 of the season at Silverstone. After a nice week off, we are back for some racing here in the United Kingdom, the second EU race of the season. But yeah, as I said, we are at Silverstone, which is a iconic venue over in the Formula 1 world, but of course tackling it in the Indycars tonight for the PMRL Indycar series. It is the Vopsy.com race of Silverstone. So welcome along, everybody. It's been a nice week off, as I mentioned too, so a little bit rusty, so hopefully no real issues on the broadcasting side of things, and hopefully no issues for the drivers as well. But quickly diving into the pre-race stuff, we are a little bit late in qualifying. We have about 5 minutes left before we have a 5-minute warm-up as well, before we go into the race itself too. So quickly going over the schedule then. Of course, as I mentioned, tonight we have Silverstone after a week off. We already did 5 races, which are Barbara, Iowa, Nürburgring, Indy and Detroit. Previously on the schedule, then of course coming up is Silverstone tonight and then the final 4 races at Autoclub Speedway, Watkins Glen, Pocono Raceway and Laguna Seca. So those are the next 4 races to cap off the season, as we continue to watch a few drivers in qualifying. And it is an open session, so unlimited laps in those, 20 minutes is the total session time, but yeah, as I mentioned, 5 minutes left. So let's take a quick look at the Drivers' Championship standings as well. This is after 5 races, which is led by Will Lyon by 54 points over Jesper Orman, who sits in the 2nd position. He actually moves up a spot on David Soranzo, who was 2nd in the championship for most of the season until now. Now David drops to 3rd, 9 points behind Jesper, so that's the top 3. They're rounding off the top 5 is Daniel Dinsdale, who moves up 5 spots into P4, and then Andreas Eich moves up 2 into P5. Then we're going to look over in the Teams Championship standings. So I have to get it up on my phone as well to have a proper look at it, because there's so many drivers and teams in the series I can't really look at it on a preview anymore. But SMS Racing leads the teams points by 77 points, over Indy Alliance Racing. And those are the only 2 teams above the 300 points in the Teams Championship standings. Taylor Mills Racing moves up 2 spots into the 3rd position. Then the top 5 is rounded off by NSH Racing Team and Powerslide Motorsports, who really haven't been as competitive in the PMRL Racing League as perhaps a few people, including myself, expected, because Powerslide is usually one of the top teams in not just open setup competition, but also fixed. They're just such a talented group of drivers, and of course everybody in the PMRL Racing League is. But Powerslide always seems to have something extra, but not in this case, which is surprising to see. But hopefully for them they can turn their season around. Of course, they did get their 1-2 at Indy a few weeks ago. But second trip to the EU this season, as we have a very bad camera angle right here of Phil Baldwin, who I believe is a new driver in the series. But currently covering qualifying then, 3 minutes left. It is SMS Racing 1-2 at the moment. Only about a tenth of a second separated between Daniel Dinsdale on the provisional pole and Will Lyon in 2nd. As we're on board with Daniel Dinsdale, who has a bit of traffic in the way of one of the IAR cars. Shouldn't really affect him too much though. As you get on the power right here through the loop section onto the Wellington Straight. Now going into Brooklands, which is not this corner, but the one right after. That's the hairpin. This is actually the old final corner of the track. If you remember, in the old F1 days, the track used to be a little bit shorter. It actually used the bridge layout, which is not used anymore on this modern day circuit. But still the Silverstone track very classic. As we go through Cops, flat out in F1 but not in IndyCar. Small lift, 4th gear, and then going up towards Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, which is flat out in the IndyCar too. And then we have a lift here and then getting on the brakes for Chapel, as Daniel messes up his lap right there, makes a small mistake, probably got an off track and invalidates his lap. But continuing the lap down the Hangar Straight into Stowe just up in front, and then we have the club section, which are the final 2 corners on the track. But I have to say I'm really excited to see the racing here, as I forgot to get rid of the team's graphics, so I apologize, but I have to say I'm really quite excited for this race, because IndyCars don't usually run around this track. Basically that, you don't really see the IndyCars here at all. You did see it in the Open schedule a few seasons back, for the iRacing IndyCar Open Series, but in leagues it's used quite rarely, so good to see it being used here tonight. And of course, this being quite a new track to the IndyCars, it should have a lot of unknowns as well, so this should really spice up the grid and the action tonight. As we have less than a minute left on the board right now. As Will Lyon has just moved into the provisional pole by half a tenth over his teammate Daniel Dinsdale, who is trying again. I'm gonna try again. Hopefully for him he makes the line. We know he messed up the last lap. He's got 8 seconds left. I do think he will make the line, but it's gonna be quite close, I have to say. And there we go, he made it by about 2.5 seconds. So let's go on board with Daniel Dinsdale for the final lap here. Will Lyon's already done, so let's see if Daniel Dinsdale, his teammate, can challenge him for pole position into turn 3. Got to keep the car to the right to open up this left-hander here. Through the loop, and then onto the, I guess you could say, back straight. Making use of the entire track's width right there, but don't go too far out wide because it will invalidate your lap. Going down 4 gears for this hairpin. Getting on the power here is crucial. Run the car out wide and then take as much speed as you can on the run up towards Cops, which is quite an infamous corner right now, and I think a few people will know what I'm saying right here, but going up towards the S's now. It's so crucial to nail this part of the lap, because if you don't, you're gonna lose so much time. This corner right here is gonna set you up for the run down the proper back straight, I guess, the hanger straight. And I do think this is going to be quite a good lap for Daniel Dinsdale. Up towards Stowe. Really got to send it in here. 50-meter board and then turn in for the corner. Make as much use of the track as possible. Don't go too far out wide. It might have been an off track. I'm not quite sure on that one. Getting on the brakes for club corner here. So difficult to get on the power right here because the track is off camera. But getting through the final corner here. Across the line. And it wasn't quite enough for Daniel Dinsdale to get to the pole position, so it's P2 for Daniel Dinsdale on the grid. And Mark Johnson is the final car out on a lap right now, I do think. He's the final car out on track for sure, so... Yeah, I don't think he's on a lap anymore, because Daniel Dinsdale was the one that crossed the line just before the time ran out, and Mark was quite a way behind him. So on the left is your qualifying results, which will be up by iRacing shortly. So there we go, qualifying time is up, and we're gonna have cars gridding up. Actually they are not, we have a warm-up session in between here, so let's take a quick look at the track conditions then, because I always like to talk about those before a race. It's 4 PM in the sim, which is actually quite usual for the league here.
Control. Hello, so just a reminder.
So you can see the track currently pretty cool, 24 degrees, which is really low in fact. So I think the reds are going to be the tires to go to in the race here. We might see the primaries being used really early on, but the track will be cooling down as the race goes on. So from a strategy perspective, it might make the most sense to start the race on the primaries, because the track's only going to get cooler from here anyway. So you can use the reds at the end. Wind is actually pretty low too, 16 kilometers per hour at the moment, which is compared to what we ran earlier in the season at Nürburgring, for example, which was close to 30, I believe. It's non-existent compared to that. So No real issues for the wind here tonight, I don't think. So quickly going over the standings one more time. Of course, Will Lyon leads it by 54 points over Jesper Orman, who took over that second position from David Zaranso 2 weeks ago at the the Detroit Grand Prix. Nürburgring was 3 weeks ago. But that's the top 3 in the championship standings. Then looking at the teams, of course, SMS Racing leads it over Indy Alliance Racing, and then Taylor Mills Racing moves into third. So that's the top 3. And I have to say, in the midfield of the teams, the points are looking very close as well. Especially between NSH and Powerslide. There's only 1 point between those two teams. And then we have a battle between Simtech, Wyvern, Team Talent, and I guess you could consider Indy Alliance Racing 2 in that mix as well. Then we got 89 Motorsports, Crescent Motorsport, and then is that team called Medir? I think that's how you pronounce it. In the 12th position for the team's championship standings. Those teams were pretty close too. But as always, a 5-minute warm-up for the drivers, which is with the race setup. And you're seeing a number of drivers experimenting with different tire compounds to perhaps start the race on. Of course, the race is about 2.5 minutes away if you include gridding too, so getting a read on the grip levels is always a good idea before the race, if you can get that. And so far it seems like the majority of the grid will be going for the reds in the beginning. Actually, as I say that, there's half the grid on the reds at the moment, and then half the grid on the primaries, the blacks. So if this keeps going, we might see a very mixed up strategy starting this race. Of course, you could also do the same strategy with the opposite of that. But a minute and a half left in warm-up. Let's track David Saranso, who lost their position in the championship standings 2 weeks ago, as he struggles to get the power down out of turn 4. On the primaries. So look for him to build up some heat in the tires first before you can actually start setting lap times. You can really see the understeer in the car at the moment on cold tires. It really does take a good lap or a few laps even on the blacks to get them up to temperature. The reds should be up to temperature after about a lap. But of course, with the cooler conditions, it will take a little bit longer than usual to get the tires into the window. So anyway, we have about a half minute left in warm-up. So it's probably a really good idea to get the qualifying results up for real. There we go. So it's Will Lyon and Daniel Dinsdale on the front row. The two teammates separated by less than half a tenth again. Those two very close together the entire season already. And Will is the only driver in the 1 minute 38.5s. Only just though, but still he is the only driver to do so. We've got Alex Selman and Sam Blackwood on the second row, just about 3 tenths behind. We've got Phil Baldwin and Matthew Levine on the third row. Matthew once again in the top 6, very close to his teammates. Still lacking a little bit of qualifying pace though, but overall on race pace they're very close together. As we have Shane Burke and Shemma van der Sloot, the two teammates as well for Simtech Motorsports on row 4. We've got David Saranso and Andreas Eicher on row 5. Then we have Anna Jorfi, the final car within a second of the pole sitter in P11. Erica Lindstrom starts from P12. And then we have on row 7 Connie Naslund and Mark Johnston with Jesper Orman and Joshua Bon. The only 2 cars not setting a lap time. They will be starting from row 8. Of course, Jessica Saban and Gary Godso, 2 stewards / admins of the league. So here we go for the Vopsy.com race of Silverstone. 46 laps around, I guess you could say Formula 1's home, but the Indycars Usually not running here, so a lot of unknowns for many drivers. It's probably the first time for about 90% of the grid running the IndyCars around this place. There have been a few open series races by iRacing here in the past. So if anything, that's everything the drivers will have probably. And also the practice sessions earlier this week hosted by the league. But generally speaking, it is a new track for many, including myself. I've actually never raced... actually, as I say that, I did race here once. That was a year or two ago with the old tire model. But never commentated here before. So looking forward to this race for sure. And hopefully you guys are as well. So... pace car gonna make the turn to pit road early, and the field in control of the SMS Racing drivers Will Lyon and Daniel Dinsdale. And Will seems to be going early. We're underway for the Popsi.com race of Silverstone. As Will Lyon leads the way and actually spins out of the final corner, noses it into the wall. Daniel Dinsdale takes the lead. We also have another car off. It was Shane Burke, I believe, who's also gone around. So chaos at the start already as we go into the loop for the very first time in the race tonight. As Sheriff van der Sloot is being passed for position by Anna Jorvie on the inside. Great move on the inside there by her. Already up 5 spots from the start in a P6. As she is trying to chase down David Saranzo early already. But a great move by Anna Jorvie. As we have another car struggling on the primaries this time. That is Andreas Eick under pressure from Erika Lindström, who I believe is on the reds. Yes, she is. Up to Cop's corner. Daniel Dinsdale pulling away already from the field. As we go through the S's for the first time. And just look at how close Erika Lindström is getting to Andreas Eick. Andreas struggling on the primary tires early on. It's going to take a few laps to get them up to temperature. As Erika's on the push to pass, going to go to the inside line for Stowe. And completes the pass on the inside. Very easy move, relatively speaking, for Erika Lindström on the red tires. The grip advantage definitely there at the moment. But Daniel Dinsdale leads lap number 1 in front of Sam Blackwood and Phil Baldwin, who moves up into 3rd. Then the top 10 is Matthew Levine, David Saranzo, Anna Jorvie, who has a great start. Then Sheriff van der Sloot also moves up a spot. Gunnar Naslund up 5, and then Erika Lindström and Andreas Eick, who rounds off the top 10. As we have a battle for position between Anna Jorvie and David Saranzo. I think David locked up the fronts into turn 3. It's now put under pressure by Anna Jorvie, and actually she gets overtaken by Sheriff van der Sloot now, who is on the move on the reds too. On the push to pass, going to go to the inside for turn 6 and completes the pass there as well. Goes over those orange curves. You don't want to do that too often because it can damage the floor. But Anna Jorvie falling back slowly again after that great start. And we will get a look of Will Lyon's spin earlier in just a moment. First, let's have a look at this battle for position. It's about a 5-6 car train at the moment. Here we go. Anna Jorvie on David Saranzo to the inside of Stowe. Completes the move before the corner even. Now we have Connie Naslund right behind as well, also on the reds. Maybe Connie's going to dive it up the inside here in the chicane. I do think Connie thought about it, but decided not to. Staying patient early on. Got to get a good run through here. Maybe make the move into turn 3. Does get a really nice run out of the final corner here, does Connie. So let's see what Connie can do through turns 1 and 2. Very nice line. That is David going off the track slightly. That's going to allow Connie to get close, but decides not to go for the move. And actually Connie letting Erika Lindström through. Is that some team games it might have been? As Erika's pace does seem to be very good at the moment. So Erika moves up into 8th. So everything seems to be quieting down at the front for the time being. These cars are running in single file. So let's have a quick look at what happened on the first lap. So let's have a closer look if we can. Here we go. So that's Will Lyon leading the field to the green flag. The pole sitter going through the final corner. Let's go on board. Clips the curb on the inside. Might have unsettled the car. And here the car starts sliding. And once you hit those curbs, the car is already sliding. And there's no way to catch it again. And now you're just trying to lock it down. Trying to not hit anything. But of course the wall is right there on the inside as well. So Will went to the pits, got some repairs done, and is back out on the circuit once again. And trying to figure out who that other car was. That was Alex Salmon, who also had an incident here. Clips the curb on the inside right here on the blacks. And simply gets loose here as well. So pretty much the same thing that happened to Will, just a little bit earlier. As we're back to live racing here on lap number 4. So Daniel Dinsdale slowly but surely pulling away from Sam Blackwood in second. Then there's a battle for third between Phil Baldwin and Matthew Levine. Those two running almost nose to tail. Looking from the back of Phil Baldwin's car. And Matthew sending it into Copse corner here, getting quite close. Might set up a run for Stowe corner here in just a moment. And not quite close enough yet, so gonna have to wait. As Phil Baldwin appears to be blinking out of the session. Hopefully that's not gonna be too bad for Phil, as Urke Lindstrom gets by David Saranso as well. So Urke on the move, already up into 7th. And Urke started 12th, so very solid start by her, as she continues to make progress here early on. Only 5 laps completed so far. So great opening few laps for Urke Lindstrom. And together with Anna Jorfi, they are the biggest movers. Both up 5 positions from the qualifying results. Or the starting grid, if you will. Track temperatures staying about the same since the start of the race. As David really does seem to be struggling on the primary tires. But remember what I said earlier on in the warm-up. It might be a wise decision to start the race on the primary tires, as Shane Berg gets really close, almost banging wheels here on the run-up to Copse. And Berg goes down the inside of Copse corner on David Saranso and pulls off the move. But what I was trying to talk about, never mind, Connie Naslund gonna have a look as well through maggots. Decides not to go for it, but does put David offline slightly though. So this will give Connie a great chance to make a move here into Stowe. As here we go. Pure drafting happening right now. No push to pass for Connie Naslund. He goes to the inside. Does have a look. David leaves the space on the on the outside line. Gets a really poor run off the corner. Then Connie is gonna try to have it around the outside, but isn't able to pull it off. So starting the race on the primaries might be a good decision, because the track is only going to get cooler from here towards the end of the race. It's 4:20 p.m. in the sim, so as the day goes on, the track will be cooling off with the sun setting. As there we go, Connie pulls off the move on the inside of turn 1. I don't know about you guys, but I love seeing these cars fly through Magus, Beckers and Chapel with that camera angle. It's great that iRacing added that camera angle because they use it in Formula 1 for the broadcasts over there in real life, and iRacing added that camera angle too, and it looks great. Phew, that's hot. But Matthew Levine closing up to Phil Baldwin. This battle for third still going on. And Daniels pulling away to 2.3 right now, gained half a second in 2 laps. So doing a good job right now. But of course, like we saw plenty of times in this season alone, but also in the past seasons, it's great that you can run up front early on, but there's always something that can happen later on in the race. Of course, Detroit is a perfect example of that because we had a few late race cautions. It completely shook up the field and the running order compared to what it was 10 laps before the finish than what it was at the checkered flag. Which was actually a Taylor Mills Racing double podium, but we didn't have the chance to do the interviews because we ran out of broadcasting time. Because of all those yellows, the race took about 2 hours to complete, so yeah, that's what you get sometimes. It happens, but we're looking set for a clean and nice race so far here tonight at Silverstone. Of course, Detroit is quite a atrocious circuit, I guess, with a lot of attrition happening right there, but Matthew Levine in the draft of Phil Baldwin down the back straight into Stowe. Gonna have a look around the outside, got really late on the brakes, the two still running side by side. With the momentum of the corner right now, Matthew Levine will have the inside for the next corner too. Pulls off the move, great move to move into the third position by the SMS Racing driver. Phil gonna try to do the cutback here on the exit of Club Corner, but Matthew seals the deal with that move. So move him into P3 for real, as Alex Salmon is dropping down the order. Not sure if something happened to Alex. Let me see if I can find what happened. Do see a pass from Jasper Orman on Alex Salmon here. That was Alex blinking out for just a second, so wasn't an actual move for position. So of course at the start of the race, Will Lyon, the reigning series champion, he got the pole, started the race there as well, and then looped it out of the final corner coming to green. He is running on the reds, got nose damage at the start, he got that repaired too. He is back out on track, about 40 seconds and a half behind Daniel Dinsdale, his teammate. And that is about the pit lane delta, so Will of course got a lot of work to do. But if he gets his head down, I do think he can still get away with a nice top 10 result, knowing how quick he is. As Urke Lindstrom gets really loose out of Stowe Corner, David Soranzo, who got overtaken by Urke a few laps ago, now gets back by, and Urke really is struggling right now on those reds. Probably burned them up a little bit too soon. As Andreas Eik is right behind as well on the primary tires. Gonna close in under the brakes. And perhaps set a move up down the straight here coming up. As we have Alex Selma doing a nice cutback on Andreas Eik. Gonna place the car on the inside and... oh, gets loose! Ooh! Saves the car, almost put off the move, but now Andreas is going to come back again on the inside and actually lifts off there to let Alex go. But Alex almost lost it there, going through, I believe Aintree is that corner name, from the top of my head. But nice solid cutback by Alex Selman, and I want to see that move again. Look at this. On the inside, gets really loose through the corner. Saves the car. Wow, that's awesome car control right there. And Andreas Eick tucks right back in line there. But that almost ended really badly for Alex Salmon, who holds on to the car and P11. As now Alex sets his sights on Erke Lindström. And now the primary tyres might be getting up into their operating window, and actually the crossover point might be happening right now as well, as Erke seems to be struggling more and more as the race goes on. Alex having a look up the inside, Erke looking up the inside front tyre as well. Alex just showing himself in the mirrors. And I do think Alex will be able to get a move done on the inside right here. Goes down the inside, late on the brakes. And Erke goes off the track. I'm not sure if that was a lock up or if Erke got forced wide there. But either way, loses a position to Alex Salmon and is going to lose another one to Andreas Eick. And Erke really is holding up this group of cars right here. As Andreas Eick goes to the inside as well. And maybe Mark Johnson is going to follow as well. And Mark was on for P3 2 weeks ago at Detroit. But went straight on in turn 3. I think it was, and those chances of that podium slipped away in heartbreaking fashion. But Mark just outside the top 10 to the inside of Kopp's corner on Erke Lindström, the two running side by side. We've seen two cars trying to run side by side there before in real life. Not in Indycar, but in F1. Didn't really work out then. It's a controversial thing to say on the broadcast, by the way. I just realized that, but oh well. Mark gets the move done and moves in front of Erke Lindström. Just looking through the field to see if there's any battles going on. I think Matthew Levine and Phil Baldwin is the closest one at the moment. On board Jesper Orman. Right behind Erke Lindström, and I do believe those two are teammates. So don't really expect Erke to put up a huge fight this early on in the race. And gives plenty of space as well for Jesper to move by on the inside of Kops. Pulls it off. No real contest right there for position. It's P12 anyway. Not much to really fight for this early in the race and then for that position too. So wisely lets her teammate go. As we have a three-way battle for position. That is David Soranzo, Alex Salmon and Connie Naslund in that battle. Alex going up the inside of Connie right there. As now David Soranzo is being put under pressure by Alex Salmon. Now there was word by SDK's driver race info, or lifetime I should say, that Alex went off the track as well. So, oh, there's a bit of front wing flying around. I'm not sure whose that is. It might have been Will Lyons, but either way, Alex also went off track in the beginning stages of the race. So, on a recovery drive, you could say. And already up into the top 10, P9 to be precise, and it's about to become P8. as Alex is lining up David Saranza for a move. And Alex, along with Daniel Dinsdale and Sam Blackwood, are the fastest cars on track at the moment. So look for Alex to make that move very quickly and then pull away from David as well. Lines him up right here through the S's. Already taking a bit of a different line. Gets more exit speed. Lines him up for the exit. David trying to break the draft, but it might already be done before the corner even, and there it is. To the inside, easy move by Alex to move into the top 8 now. So only down 5 positions from his starting position. Doing a great job recovering that. I believe it was a spin at the start of the race. Like everybody else that had issues. Got Sam Morley in chat, the one and only. Good to see you. Got I'm trying to pronounce your name. Sorry, Devon Clark. Is that how you pronounce your name? I apologize if that's incorrect, but hello to you as well anyway. Good to see you. Got 2 viewers. Of course, if you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure that you do. For all live coverage and also some pole lap and highlight content that I need to get back up to speed on. I haven't really done them in the last few weeks, been kind of busy in real life, so gonna try to make up for that tomorrow. As much as possible anyway. Of course, also want to quickly get in a thank you for the sponsors as well. Of course, Major's Garage has been with us, the Prime Racing League, for the past season and last as well. Of course, you can use the referral link in the description below on any Major's Garage purchases. A small part of the money that you spend on the setups will go towards the Prime Racing League to help fund all the sessions and all that good stuff. Of course, running an iRacing League isn't free, so if you would like to help the league out, you can do so by using the referral code. It doesn't cost you any extra money, but a small part of that purchase does go towards the league. And of course also Vopsy iRacing paints. There you can see the slideshow on the screen. Vilde does amazing paints, not just for the Indycar, but also touring cars and other types of racing cars on iRacing. You can follow Vilde on Instagram. Vopsy lowercase iRacing is how you can contact her. So yeah, I have to say I might get one of those paints as well. Need one done for the Euro 5, so who knows? So back to live racing once again, 14 laps in. And here we go. The Reds seem to be falling off quite significantly right now. Actually, as I say that, these 3 cars, Sam Blackwood, Matthew Levine and Phil Baldwin, running closer together, but they're all on the Reds in fact. But Sheriff van der Sloot, who is running on the Blacks, is actually closing in on these 3 cars as well. So that point does still stand, but Sam Blackwood clearly struggling a little bit more with the tyre wear. The gap now up to 4.8 to Daniel Dinsdale. Sam under pressure from Matthew Levine, who is going to want to make it another 1-2 finish for SMS Racing. Of course, still 31 laps to go. As we also have Alex Salmon going into the pits right now. So he will drop down the order, as well as Mark Johnson, who's also gone into the pits. But let's go back to these 3 cars. As Matthew Levine gets a really nice run on Sam Blackwood here to the inside. Nope. It's going to stick behind for just a little longer. And also driving those alternate racing lines to try and set up a run on the run up towards Cobb's Corner. And it might already come right here, as Sam is going to keep the race in line. And he actually has keep a distance on the rear wing. Matthew got close enough for us to read it, but through the S's then. And I think this is where Matthew is going to line up Sam, or try to at least. Doesn't get a really nice run through here, so I don't think he's going to be close enough to do it. And I think he knows it too. And Phil Baldwin also not able to capitalize on that one, so no moves happening at the moment, but it's not going to be long before Sam is going to get overtaken, I'm afraid. But actually, as I say that, everybody going to go into the pits. Daniel Dinsdale leads the way. So fuel window about 16 laps. $15 laps, I should say. So you're going to have to fuel save at one point. Let's see which tyres everybody will be going on to. Daniel Dinsdale goes on to the primaries. So he will comply with the tyre regulations. Of course, you have to use both compounds in the race, the reds and the blacks. The red alternate tyre and the black primaries. But Dinsdale off and away again, and so is Sam Blackwood, who also goes to the blacks. As well as Matthew Levine, who is so close to Sam, gonna send it up the inside, right out of the box. Cold tires, gotta be careful. Side by side through the loop section. Sam gonna squeeze Matthew onto the curbs, doesn't get the power down as well as he would have liked. And Sam holds on for now, but I think Matthew's gonna be on the push to pass. No, he's not. Still going to try and have a go around the outside though. And all of this battling is allowing Daniel Dinsdale to pull away a little bit more. As Levine has got the inside for Lovefield right now. And pulls off the move to move into P2. Provisionally, of course, the top four still yet to pit. As Sam Blackwood is going to come back to the outside now of Cobb's corner. The two getting really close together, but no contact made. And clean racing between these two. Great to see. As now the top four go into the pits too. Now these four, I don't think will have to save any fuel for the rest of the race. They made it 16 laps. You can make it 15 if you go all the way. Flat out all the way, I should say. So I think these four people will be good to go to the end with 30 laps to go. As Daniel Dinsdale's got a huge lead over Phil Baldwin, who actually exits the pits right now, and Matthew Levine. The gap up to 5.7 seconds right now. That's a huge gap. That's a second more than it was when they came into the pits. But Phil Baldwin rejoins right behind Levine and Blackwood. So going that extra lap and also being good to go on fuel might give him a huge advantage for the remaining two stints. As Phil has a look up the inside of Sam Blackwood, and Sam gives him plenty of space. As there's netcode contact between Phil Baldwin and Sam Blackwood, and I think Phil kept it going without damage. Don't see any on his car at least, so I think he's good to go. Well, it's pretty obvious from the outside, even from that angle that we got, that it was netcode, so I don't think Phil will have any damage. What you are seeing right now is the cold tire and the stair, not so much damage. Usually iRacing realized that it was netcode, so it kind of reinstates your car without damage. You see plenty of times in over racing where the front tire, for example, breaks off and then it magically reappears. But that does leave Phil Baldwin with a 2-second gap to close back in to Blackwood, and Sheriff on the Sloat is about half a second back on Phil Baldwin right now. I have to say though, Sheriff on the Sloat, he is a fellow countryman of mine, both Dutchies, but Schemmel was on for a top 5 at Nürburgring and was involved in the last lap incident. For some reason, my memory from his race result 2 weeks ago at Detroit is completely wiped. I don't know why. I don't remember where he finished, but I don't. But anyway, currently on track for another top 5. And it might be his first top 5 in the series this season. So hopefully for Sherwin he can stay where he is right now. And Sherwin is the master of fuel savings, so he's still got a fuel save stint left to do. And I think he will be just fine with that. Anna Jorfi moves up into 6th, up 5 from the qualifying and starting grid. And Anna is one of those drivers that is kind of consistent. Her result kind of depends on the mistakes everybody else around her make. Pace-wise, she's always about 10th quickest. But currently running in 6th and on track for a very good result at the moment. Of course, she's got Shane Burke right behind as well, who is looking to make a move not too long from now, both on the primary tires. But hopefully for Anna she can keep this up. Sam Blackwood is having a few issues, running side by side with Sherman van der Sloot here through turn 2. Farm curve into turn 3. And he goes late on the brakes there to send it into the corner, but Sherman on the outside. It's going to become the inside for this corner right here. Gets the power down earlier. It makes the move on Sam Blackwood. Going to try to figure out what happened to him. But Sam Blackwood going to come back here on the straight. All drafting right now. To the inside once again. And will pull off the move once again. So moves back up into P4. Let's go back a little bit further to see what happens. So that's Sam running side by side with Phil Bowen. That was a little bit earlier. Now let's see what happened here. This is the same move. How about this one then? No, this was in turn 4. What happened to Sam Blackwood then? I'm kind of confused right now. Lap 18, here we go. Sam gets loose out of the final corner and half spins to the inside of the track, gets back on the way again, and that's why Sharon van der Sloot got through in the first place, but then Sam retook that position a few corners later on. So Sam with a small mistake drops to 4th for Wyvern Racing. On his quest for his first PMRL podium, he's been so close so many times. And he's about 2.4 seconds away from that podium right now after that mistake. But long ways to go still. Jasper Orman finished 3rd at Indianapolis a few weeks ago, behind Henry Bennett and Hugo Olsen for Power Slide. But for IAR, Jasper currently running a P11, probably not the result he had hoped for going into this race. He's a driver that's getting more used to the road courses as the series progresses. For sure, talking about Indy just a moment ago, very experienced on the ovals, not so much on the road courses it seems, but he's getting there. He has always been in or around the top 10 though, so still a solid day, could have been better, but as I mentioned, there's still a long way to go, so we might see Jasper well inside the top 10 after all at the checkered flag. As we are slowly coming up towards the halfway point in the race. That's Anna Jorfi now in 7th. She dropped a position. on the last lap. Let's see what happened. As Shane gets a very nice run out of left field on the inside of Cobb's corner, pulls off the move before Cobb's corner even, and moves up into P6. And now Anna is dropping back towards David Saranzo, so not sure what's happening to Anna Jorfi. Maybe the primary is not being in the window yet, so losing time towards the red tire runners. That might be exactly what's happening right now. Let's have a look at the track conditions. It's down 8 degrees from the start, so down to 23 degrees at the moment. It was 24 at the start. So as I mentioned earlier, the reds will only become stronger and stronger as the day goes on. It's 4:45 p.m. in the sim. So sun going down, temperatures going down, which will only make the primary tires more and more useless. Or less and less useful. Depending on how you want to look at it, but the primary's definitely not the tire to be on at the moment, at least this early on in the stint. As we have 25 laps to go. Oh. Phil Ball will once again blinking out for just a second. I think he's good though. Oh, Mark Johnson's had an off this lap. We missed that, but let's have a replay from this for turn 2. Clips the grass, slides all the way through the corner. Doesn't actually hit anything. Still decides to pull off the track, so that's a bit surprising to be honest, but oh well. Mark Johnston behind the wall drops to 16th, and I haven't really mentioned Joshua Bond at all today. Running in 15th position, about 50 seconds behind the leader. I would say just running laps at this stage, being this far behind the front runners. Got Urkel Lindstrom, who was running really well earlier on in the race, all the way down in 14th right now. She is 2 seconds behind Will Lyon, who is up in the 13th again after spinning from the pole on the start of the race. And oh, David Saranzo has just gone around in the final corner, also toast to the pits. Again, I didn't see any damage on the car, so I'm not sure why these two drivers are towing, including Mark Johnston, by the way, who is now classified as out. But might call it a day, David Saranzo is. Which you really hate to see. So here we go, halfway in the race. The Vopsy.com race of Silverstone, led by Daniel Dinsdale, who has led all of the laps so far, I do believe, apart from the pit cycles. Of course, his teammate Will Lyon spun from the green flag, and then Daniel Dinsdale, sorry, who started second, took the race lead and never really looked back. He's got a 6.3 second gap over the other SMS Racing car of Matthew Levine, who sits in the second position with Phil Baldwin a further 2.2 seconds back. So at the front, not much really happening. As off your screen, Alex Salmon is in the pits, who also spun at the start of the race, trying to make up some ground. And there's not really any battles going on apart from Sam Blackwood and Sharon van der Sloot. So let's have a look from the back of Sam Blackwood's car. And Alex Salmon's had an off as well. Getting word that Alex has crashed, so let's see what happened to Alex. Probably out of the pits on cold tires, and yes it is. Out of turn, hold on, 3, 4, out of turn 5. Spins the car around, and I don't know what this is, but hits the wall and is out. So too much damage to continue. I have to say I'm really confused what that was, that last bit, but oh well. Let's just call it an equipment failure. Hey, got somebody in chat who shares my name. Except it's pronounced probably French though, in this sense. Trying to figure out how to pronounce this in French. Julien? Chastanet? I don't know. I'm trying, man. Sorry. But good to see you anyway. Welcome. Cheering on David Saranzo and NSH Racing Team. Of course, if you're watching and you want to support your favorite driver, have any questions, comments or whatever, feel free to put it in chat. Always happy to read it out on the broadcast and perhaps have a little chat as well. Of course, we are now in the middle part of the race, currently watching Sam Blackwood and Sharon van der Sloot battle for the final, not the final podium spot, battling for P4. It's about the only battle on track right now. So it's always nice to fill it up with a little bit of chatting, I guess. And actually, as I say that, Andreas Eik is also quite close to Connie Naslund. Connie on the blacks, gaining time on Andreas. So probably the reds falling away for the 76 of Team Talent. And here we go, Connie gets a very nice run out of turn 4 through turn 5. Not quite close enough to make the move just yet. Probably not going to be too long before it happens though. As Andreas gets a really bad exit out of left field. Connie going to the inside before Cobb's corner already. And he will pull off the move. Quite easily. Into 9th for Connie. For Indy Alliance Racing. As we go back towards the battle for P4, Sam Blackwood still holds on to that position. Of course, Sam was running in P2 for a while until I guess a half spin you could say happened out of the final corner a handful of laps ago. And at the moment, Daniel Dinsdale managing the gap to his teammate Matthew Levine. 6.3 seconds, 6.2 now between those two. Then there's a 2.7 second gap to Phil Baldwin in the third position. With Blackwood and Van der Sloot rounding off the top 5. Shane Burke, Anna Jorfi, Jesper Orman, Connie Naslund and Andreas Eik round off the top 10. Then the final 3 cars running are Will Lyon, Erke Lindstrom and Joshua Bond. I had to look up that name for a second. It's not a name I'm used to reading out on the broadcast, I have to say. I don't mean it in a mean way, by the way. Just never really seen the name floating around until today. So, with not much really happening, let's have a very quick look at the schedule, because of course anything can happen all of a sudden. So tonight the Silverstone race. Next week we go to Autoclub Speedway, which will be the third oval of the season, the second Triple Crown round. On the 23rd of March, of course, next week. Then the 30th of March is Watkins Glen, this time visiting the classic boot layout, which is different to the normal boot layout we run in PMRL. Then we go to Pocono Raceway to cap off the Oval Championship side of things on the 6th of April, the final Triple Crown round as well, by the way. And then the final race of the season at Laguna Seca on the 13th of April. So those are the final 4 races of the season after this one. And of course, whilst we're at it, also check out the sponsors, Majors Garage and Vopsy iRacing Paints. The referral link for Majors Garage can be found in the description below, as well as the Instagram link to Vopsy lowercase iRacing on Instagram. Vopsy iRacing Paints, that is. Of course, Villa does great iRacing paints for not just the Indycar, but also different cars like touring cars, GT cars, you name it. And she does it, so check it out in the description. So 18 laps to go, and Daniel Dinsdale has been leading all race except the pit cycles, and currently running on his second stint, approaching his final one. and he will have to fuel save, I do believe, for his final stint to make it to the end. But he's got a pretty huge gap over his teammate Matthew Levine to do so. I don't think these two will be racing each other anyway if they do get to each other. I think they want to put the team result first this time around. They have had a few team incidents this season already, mainly with Will Lyon and Daniel Dinsdale, but running 1-2 at the moment. It's also good for the team's championship, as Phil Baldwin once again blinking out for just a moment, so that's why Blackwood and Van der Sloot moved up a spot temporarily, but they are corrected back into 4th and 5th right now. And speaking of Will Lyon, by the way, quietly making his way up the field again into P9 at the moment. And if you look at it closely, he has made up about 2.5 seconds over Daniel Dinsdale, his teammate, who was leading the race. The gap was about 40 seconds after the spin, and it's 37 seconds now. Of course, it's kind of pointless because Will did pit one more time with that front wing damage, but still, it does show the pace that Will does have, which I guess we all know, but it's always nice to point out anyway. Sam Blackwood goes into the pits, but in the meantime, let's have a quick look at that move by Will Lyon on Conny Naslund for position into P9. That was just a few moments ago, as Anna Jorfi and Jesper Orman also follow Sam Blackwood into the pits. Anna going from the primaries to, I would say, the Reds. And that guess was wrong. To the primaries again for Anna Jorfi for the final stint. So the primaries being used a lot more than I expected early on, going into this race actually. But Anna Jorfi off and away again. As Will Lyon is right behind Sam Blackwood. I don't think Will be racing Sam too hard, knowing that Will is that Will is just almost a pit stop behind basically. Going through the S's, Will is actually closing in quite a bit, so I might have to take those words back. Will might actually go for a move here. So I'm gonna go defensive to the middle of the track, and actually goes back to the racing line right here. And now Will is gonna go into the pits. So let's see where Phil Baldwin and Matthew Levine will rejoin in relation to Sam Blackwood, who has already pitted the lap before them. Of course, Sam will have to save a small amount of fuel, and these guys will not have to do that, as there is Sam right in the background of the shot. And Phil and Matthew actually quite comfortably ahead of Sam. So they will be able to go flat out to the end. And Daniel Dinsdale also came into the pits that time by the way. So that leaves Shane Burke out in the race lead right now for Simtech Motorsports. And he will come into the pits with 14 laps to go, I would imagine. So this time by is my guess. And Simtech Motorsports is one of the more experienced fuel-saving teams around, it seems. They always seem to go a lap or two longer than everybody else. And if they can just string the races together, it really does pay off quite a bit. Of course, Sheriff van der Sloot was on for a top 5 at Nürburgring, was involved in an incident there, so I guess it doesn't really count. But Detroit was kind of a race of attrition too, so if they have a nice calm race like tonight, they might be in for a very solid result, as Shane Burke goes into the pits now. A lap later than everybody else. So he will lead a lap, as Dinsdale retakes the race lead. And what you were hearing right there, by the way, with the gears, is if you upshift into second gear in the pits, iRacing is a little bit messed up with that. There's a pit speed limit of, I believe, 60 kilometers per hour here at Silverstone specifically, but 80 kilometers per hour around most tracks. If you use the gears, you can actually go over that speed for a brief moment, which iRacing doesn't actually register. So in theory, you can actually speed in the pit without iRacing noticing it. Well, quote unquote, not noticing it. It simply doesn't penalize you for it. And by doing that, you can gain a small amount of time. It's not huge, but it can help you in some instances. Not so much in this case with Shane Burke, but oh well. That's basically what Shane was trying to do there. Trying to be in and out of the pits as quickly as possible, which is kind of what you need to do in a pit stop. Got an unhappy David Sarans on Discord, so I assume there was an incident right there, and actually Sheriff van der Sloot has had an incident too, not too long ago. Let's have a look at this one first. Going into the final few corners, clipping the orange curb on the inside, and spins around. So, gonna do a nice little donut. Not for winning the race though, but turns the car back around and is back on his way again. But let's see what happened to David Saranzo then. Where is it? Here it is. Lap 22. Battling with Alex Salmon for position on the inside. And Alex on the inside. Yeah, that's a difficult one to call. Let's have a look from the chopper angle. Actually, let's play this one out and then go to slow motion. Right about here. So, Alex got his nose on the inside. So, I guess technically it's alongside. The spotter should call it out too. David leaves a little bit of space. There's actually enough space there. And then Alex naturally runs out wide for the corner. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, David did leave the space. But then again, it's kind of the normal way to take the corner too. And Alex, it's not like Alex actually ran him out of road 2. So I think this is just a racing incident, in my honest opinion. But of course, we got the stewards to make a call on that one. So they will be quite busy with that. As the sun is now really starting to set, it seems. Temperature's not really going down as much though, which is surprising to see, to be fair. It's still 23 degrees. Thought it would have dropped below 20 already at this stage, but it clearly hasn't. Will Lion on the back of Jasper Orman, battle for P8. Small luck up for Jasper right here through turn 4, through turn 5 now. On the run up towards turn 6 down the Wellington Straight. Will Lion gonna try and have a look on the inside here on the primary tires versus Jasper on the reds. Still able to pull off the move on the inside. Very nice, clean, solid move by Will Lion, championship leader and also reigning champion. Spun on lap 1, up into P8. 7 seconds is the gap to Anna Jorfi. Will he be able to close that in 11 laps? Maybe. We do have a nice graphic for that if we can actually get that up. So actually Will is trying to read this graphic. So Will is gaining 0.3 of a second in sectors 1 and 3 and getting about 0.2 in sector 2. So that will be 0.9 of a second. That's about a second a lap, which Will is gaining on Anna Jorfi. So keep an eye on this gap as the race goes on. If you do the quick math, 10 laps to go, a second a lap is 10 seconds, which means he will finish right behind Sharon van der Sloot, maybe even overtake Sharon van der Sloot for P6. So let's keep an eye on this, and actually Will getting more than a second on that last lap. 0.3, half a second, 0.8, 0.9, and then 1.2 seconds is basically what he gains each lap. So on that rate, he will surely finish in front of Sharon van der Sloot as well. So Will chasing down Anna and Sharon. It's always nice to do a bit of math when you really don't need to, because oh well, you'll see it happen anyway, right? Alright, so inside 10 laps to go, 9 laps to go in fact, almost 8. And Daniel Dinsdale still leads, and he actually has a 12-second gap right now, so that gap has pretty much doubled since the last pit stops. Which really goes to show the pace of not just Daniel Dinsdale, by the way, but the entire SMS Racing team. Yes, Matthew Levine is also an SMS Racing driver, but Matthew is more of the consistent type of driver, and Dinsdale and Will are more the really aggressively fast drivers who really go for it all the time. And sometimes it works for them, sometimes it doesn't, but Matthew still, with that consistent pace, gets in a very decent result once again in second. I'm pretty sure he's also ahead of Daniel in the championship standings. He actually is not, but that's because Matthew missed a few races and Daniel's been there all the way. So that's what got me confused for a second there, but oh well. Coming up to 8 laps to go. And it's looking likely that it's going to be an SMS Racing 1-2. And I say it's looking likely, that is because Matthew Levine is falling into Phil Baldwin basically. Phil closing the gap. As I say that, Phil... Oh, there he is. Just blinked out for a second, I couldn't see him. I thought he entered the pits for a second there too, but he didn't. And this really has been the top 3 for most of the night. In this order as well. Of course, Sam Blackwood was running in P2 for a while until he had a half spin on the final corner as well. Much like Alex Salmon and Will Lyon had in the beginning too. But currently 12 cars still running on the lead lap. Joshua Bond is the final car to be so on the lead lap. Sorry, as English is difficult again. But Joshua running in P12. Safe to say the pace hasn't really been there for Joshua tonight, but still running on the lead lap after 38 laps is quite impressive. And just goes to show by keeping the car on the track, you can actually get away with a very solid result. And it shows right again. Of course, Lindstrom had really good pace early on but dropped out. Salmon had really good pace but dropped out. Soranzo was in the midfield but also dropped out. And Mark Johnston, for whatever reason, just stopped on the track after a mistake and called it quits. Also dropped out. Closest battle on track is between Matthew Levine and Phil Baldwin, with 7.5 laps to go for these two drivers. Sam Blackwood in the background here, going through the S's as well now in the middle of it. Trying to close the gap. I know that Sam is pushing for that podium, but currently it seems like he just about will come short again here in the PMRL. Of course, we all know his podium drought has gone back to his first ever start in the league here. He's never gotten a podium in this league. He's gotten a few podiums in other leagues here and there, but never here in the Prime Meridian Racing League. Will today be the day? I don't think so. But we've seen it at Detroit 2 weeks ago. Anything can happen in the final few laps. Especially at Detroit, by the way. That race, the final lap was really quite ridiculous, I have to say. But it still goes to show that despite being behind the battles for positions or the final podium spots, with a few laps to go, doesn't mean entirely that you're out of it. So just stay where you are and something good might happen to you. Of course, it's not likely, but it can happen. And I have to say, I wonder if the sun setting is causing some visibility issues for the drivers. It's not something I'm really noticing anywhere in terms of lap times or inputs, but it's just something that just came into my mind. Actually, why don't we just figure out? How about we go into the cockpit of your race leader, Daniel Dinsdale. There it is. I think it's fine, to be fair. Across the start-finish line for 5 laps to go here at Silverstone. Let's see here in left field how the visibility is here. I think it's fine here too, but just in case. It's a little off-putting, but there's nothing that really puts you off significantly, so nothing to worry about with 5 laps to go. I do have to mention, by the way, despite Sam having to save fuel on the final stint, he's actually not falling too far back behind these 2 cars. Just a few more laps to go, but I wonder if Sam's already saved enough to really go for it now, or if he still has to save some fuel. He's not really closing in as much as he was before anymore, so I think it's the latter part that he has to save now. And we just missed it. But Will Lyon got by Anna Jorfi for P7. There it is. On the inside. And not much of a fight really being put up by Anna Jorfi. Let's have another look about this one. From the onboard of Will Lyon to the inside. Just goes later on the brakes and Anna leaves the door open. And Will takes the gap. So 3 laps to go for Daniel Dinsdale. And I quickly have to look this up, but this might be his first win of the season. Might not have been. Maybe I can find it. Trying to figure out which race he could have won. Was it Detroit that he won? It was. He won at Detroit 2 weeks ago. I don't know how I didn't know that anymore. It's been 2 weeks. It's been a nice time off again, I guess. But of course, it's always nice to be back again too. So, of course, we have 4 races to go still. 2 Triple Crown rounds coming up in the next few weeks. And actually next week is the first of those 2. Auto Club Speedway being the second Triple Crown round, with Pocono being the last on the 6th of April. We already had Indy, of course, 3 weeks ago, which was dominated by Powerslide Motorsports. Of course, Iowa, which was not a Triple Crown round, but it was won by Alexis Newsom, who we are yet to see back again in the series. Of course, she joined Team I5G over the weekend. Already got an IndyCar Open win, but looking forward to her return. And why not? Why not see Henry Bennett back soon as well for the 2 oval races? I do know those 2 are primarily oval drivers, so we might see them back then for those 2 rounds. I have to say, from the top 3, I really don't think there's much to talk about in the interviews. It's not like there's much that really happened. Of course, we did see Blackwood spinning, which kind of promoted Levine and Baldwin into those positions, but other than that, I don't think there's much to really talk about. So I think the interviews are going to be very, very short. Especially with Daniel Dinsdale, he's been at the front all race long. He hasn't actually seen anything happen. So, anyway, white flag is out. 1 more lap to go for Daniel Dinsdale, who is looking set to go back-to-back on wins here in the Prime Radio Racing League. Of course, he won at Detroit 2 weeks ago. And on his way to another one here tonight, to really turn around his season. Of course, he had an horrendous start to the season with crashes and other incidents and just really bad finishes. And currently might be well in the mix again for the championship with these 2 back-to-back wins. Of course, with Will Lyon finishing all the way down to 7th. The gap between those 2 will close down quite a bit. It's not championship rival level close, because Will does have quite a big advantage, so he can afford 1 or 2 bad races, but still, Daniel racking up these wins is only going to improve his position in the standings. So for the through the S's for the final time, Levine closing in just a little bit, but nothing major. Dan using push to pass for the final lap. This might be a fastest lap attempt, I'm not sure, but unchallenged through Stowe Corner for the final time as well, and then through the club section. And it will be a dominant drive by Daniel Dinsdale for SMS Racing. Through the final corner, it's another win back-to-back to victory lane for Daniel Dinsdale, and he wins the Vopsy.com race of Silverstone. In dominant fashion, he weaves across the start-finish line to celebrate. Matthew Levine, his teammate, gonna make it a SMS Racing 1-2. As he holds on Phil Baldwin, who finishes in the 3rd position. Great run by Phil in the 97 car. I believe that's his first race this season. Sam Blackwood comes home in the 4th position. Was on for a podium, but through a mistake lost out here tonight. Shane Berg comes across the line to round off the top 5, and then we wait for Sheriff van der Sloot to finish the race in 6th. Will Lyon 7th, Anna Jorfi in 8th. Jasper Orman will come home in 9th, with Connie Naslund in the 10th position for Indy Alliance Racing. But Daniel Dinsdale with another great performance. And That's the top 3 driving on the Wellington Straight here for the photos. Of course, Phil that makes those as well for the league. But I have to say, early on in the beginning, the race was really quite exciting. After that, it kind of died out. They see a few nice battles and moves for position, but nothing to really write home about. Which actually is quite a bit of a shame, considering Silverstone really is a racy track. But the field just spread out a little bit too much, and that meant we saw the race that way. But of course, next week we go to Autocross Speedway, which is an oval, which might even be a pack race. We don't know until the cars get on track for practice on Monday next week. But race results are in. So here we go. Daniel Dinsdale for SMS Racing wins it by 11.6 seconds over teammate Matthew Levine. Phil Baldwin rounds off the podium. Then we have Sam Blackwood and Shane Broker round off the top 5. Sheriff van der Sloot, Will Lyon recovers to 7th. Anna Jorfi gets a very nice result in P8. Then we have Jasper Orban and Connie Naslund for Indy Alliance Racing, both 9th and 10th. And then we have Andreas Eik and Joshua Bond, the final 2 finishers in the race. Then we have DNFs in Erke Lindstrom, Alex Salmon, David Saranzo, Mark Johnston, the final car finishing, and then Jessica Saban and Gary Gozzo being admins of the league, but still being classified 46 laps down. So that wraps up the racing here at Silverstone. We will just give the drivers on the podium a second to get on Discord for the interviews. It's not like they will be too long, so let's see if we can get Discord open and maybe talk to Phil Baldwin first. There we go. So we got the top 2 finishers in first. I'm just quickly going to give Phil a minute to get in first so we can do a 3-2-1. If not, we'll just start with you, Dan. But yeah, we'll just do that actually. So Dan, congratulations on your 2nd win in a row. You won Detroit, and then tonight was a dominant drive. I don't think there's much to talk about, but talk us through your race anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not used to winning, so last week was the first win I've had in this championship, so I was pretty a bit more nervous last week than this week. But it was just helped by an unfortunate start. I think both Will and Alex, front and behind me, lit up the rears coming out onto the start-finish straight, and it's so easily done. Like I've done it before, and it was a bit of a shame really, because obviously for both of those guys, but also because on my end there wasn't any racing, like close racing, but at the same time it wasn't that easy, because I think everyone in the race had to be quite careful to make sure that they did save a lap of fuel, and me and Matt were both trying to judge that during the second stint, so that was probably the most tense part, and I think maybe more tense for Matt than it was for me, but it was good. It was overall a good race.
Perfect. Well, I literally don't have anything else to ask you, so I'm just going to move on from this, but feel free to send out your shout-outs before I do.
Yeah, shout out Matt and Will for keep on dragging me out to these races. I'm still enjoying it and learning a lot from them both, and now hopefully we can just get Matt to win a race at some point, and all will be good.
Maybe you just have to let him by sometime to do so.
he was on the radio towards the end, wondering if I could.
I mean, I don't blame him. I would have done the same. But anyway, going on to Matthew. Thank you, Dan. But Matthew, P2 for you. You were involved in a battle with Phil Baldwin there for the final stages in the race. But just talk me through that battle and your race overall.
Oh, well, Phil had some pace. Had to work hard to stay in front of him in that final stint. any little slip up and he would have been right on me. So it was tough to keep going at the end, maintain the gap, but I think once I sort of just got out of the slipstream, I was able to manage it. But in terms of the race, first stint went all right. I managed 15 laps like I wanted to. The second stint is where any chance of winning went out the window because I think I was like 5 seconds behind Dan. But then towards the end, I realised I hadn't saved enough for the 16 laps. And I knew if I was trying to save 16 laps in the final stint, Phil definitely would have had me. So I lost a good 4 seconds maybe, doing some extreme fuel saving in the middle stint, trying to get those 16 laps, which I just managed to do. Ran out of fuel as I was entering the pit lane. I was sort of just coasting down there, but it was good. It was a good race. Had a little battle with Phil at the start. A bit of a battle with Sam coming out the pit lane after the first stop. Yeah.
Actually, I forgot about that battle with Blackwood there, but yeah, nice that you pointed it out too. Yeah, that was really close actually. I almost thought you were going to hit him up the rear coming out, but luckily you didn't. But another solid performance. Consistency is key, as they say, so hopefully for you, you can keep that going for the remainder of the season. For you as well, feel free to send out your shout-outs.
Just, it was a bit unlucky I say unlucky. He was a mug and lit up the rear at the start, but we worked together though in the chat trying to work out fuel numbers and stuff, and certainly without Dan calling out his numbers, I certainly wouldn't have made it on the fuel, so it's for the team.
Alright, perfect. So moving on to Phil Baldwin. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember seeing your name in the past, but I guess I'm kind of new here myself, but this might be your first podium in the league, is that correct?
It's my first race in the league. To rock up and have the pace that I've had feels amazing. I got to thank Alex Salmon for just sort of teaching me some of the little techniques to get a little bit more pace out of it, had some really good fuel saving. I was really shocked that I managed to get the 16th lap off the start on the reds, I think there was an unfortunate little netcode incident with Sam, with the teammate, which you never want. You never want to hit your teammate. Just at the start of the second stint, which could have ended up with the way Matt had to fuel save so aggressively towards the end of that second stint. Just cost the opportunity of getting by him for a P2. In the final stint, there was just no getting him. I was able to keep on him nicely, keep him under pressure. The dirty areas was just a little bit too much to get him. To get the run onto the straights that I really wanted. He was fantastic out of the turn 3 and 4 chicane, and it was just a little bit too much for me. But I feel really good about the performance. First podium, first race, all good.
Yeah, perfect debut for you. But I quickly want to go back though to the final few laps with Matthew there. Of course, knowing this is your first race, like you did, I didn't at the time, but. You knew it. Was there any hunger to go for more, or were you kind of satisfied with third place already?
Obviously, you want more. You always want more. Doesn't matter if you're not first, you want to be first. I don't care who you are and what you say. You want to be higher up. It was quite frustrating. I think I should have backed off from him earlier, saved the fronts, and gone for him later. I had enough fuel to use a few of the push-to-passes towards the end, but so did he, which I didn't know. So it was a little bit frustrating when I started pulling them out and he started pulling them out at the same time. But obviously that's just kudos to them. Those guys really know what they're doing, got their fuel numbers really well calculated and run to. So I can't really complain. At the end of the day, they've done a fantastic job. I've done my best, not quite good enough, but you always wish you could have more.
Exactly. Well, next race is going to be Autocross Speedway. Do you have any over experience in this car, or are you new to those?
I think I've done one race in the past, and it was a long time ago, so I've got no experience really on oval in these things. Have had a number of wins and a championship victory NASCAR leagues, but this is a whole nother ball game. It's a good 50 miles an hour faster in the flat out circuits, and so yeah, it'll be a learning experience. I don't expect a similar result again, but if I can get one, I'll definitely take it.
Well, I think you're gonna be in for a great time next week, because over racing in this thing is awesome. But before I let you go, feel free to send out your shout outs to any sponsors or any people that you want to thank.
I wasn't in. I don't know if we have any sponsors, but just thanks to Taylor for having me along, I guess, in the TMR car, and Alex and Sam for the support pre-race, and then just to all the DHR lads. Got to love them. Got to shout them out whenever I can. So, yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, see you next week for the California 250.
Yeah, thank you.
Alright, so that's going to wrap it up for us here tonight. The Vopsy.com race of Silverstone. It's been a great race. Like I did mention though, early on it was great to watch. After that it kind of died out and then kind of picked back up again towards the later stages. But still a great race to watch. Hope you all enjoyed it as well. Of course, as always, make sure that you subscribe to the PMRL channel and like the broadcast as well if you did enjoy it. And why not just ring the bell as well, so you are notified of the new streams next week and then the weeks after that for the final few races of the season. But as I mentioned a few times already, next week the Auto Club Speedway, before we close things off with the final 3 races. So yeah, exciting few races coming up, and hopefully you guys can all join us for that ride. But for now, thanks everybody for watching, thanks to all the sponsors, and we look forward to seeing you next week.